Wonderful. And so first up, we have our colleagues from Meteo. Now, we're not going to announce you one by one. When your slide comes up, we'll definitely try and hand over to you. But in the meantime, if that person can come on to the stage, I will mute myself.
Hi there, this is Martin Fingler from Meteomatics, CEO and founder, and of course I'm glad to be here to introduce Meteomatics to you. So Meteomatics aims to improve weather forecasting, and actually as of today we have two different main challenges when it comes to weather forecasting. One is high resolution weather modeling, and the other thing is that we actually do not know how the weather conditions are right now. And this is where we of course we have different measurement devices already. So there's weather stations, aircraft, satellite data, maybe, and also balloons. But then the main challenge here is that meteorology is flying blind in the mid and low atmosphere. And this is where we introduce the drone systems, which helps us to improve the knowledge about the initial state of the atmosphere. And once you have these proprietary data, you can also forecast the weather conditions much better. Next. This is how our current system looks like. So the system that we have developed for the last nearly 13 years now. It is able to fly out to 6 kilometers. It's capable to fly even under icing conditions. In these altitudes, this is something that is something that you encounter quite often, and measures temperature, humidity, wind speed, wind direction, and pressure. So it could be regarded as some replacement to radio sondes, which is known to be the gold standard for direct observations. Next. Now, and this is where the secret sauce comes in. So once you have those data, and of course these could be mobile systems or systems that are run through a drone in a box solution, what we call Meteo base, then you can assimilate those into your own high resolution weather model. We run a proprietary 1 kilometer model across all of Europe on some supercompute systems. And then we are able to deliver this information to our customers. So there are APIs, and effectively we are a SaaS company here located in St. Gallen with around 130 colleagues. 80% of our revenue is driven by this SaaS business. So we provide weather forecasts all around the globe, historical data, current and also forecast data. And of course, the proprietary technology is an hardware-enabled weather business is, of course, superior to all other technology that is currently out there. Thank you.
Wow. Thanks for being punctual. Thanks, Martin, and wonderful to hear about your work. Always a big fan of weather. Maybe Ara, would you have a question, or Juan, over to you?
Sure. To kick things off, congratulations. That's fantastic. I'll speak fast so that you have more time to answer. But I'm wondering, you're mentioning a lot about your customer base and how it's growing, but I want to know, how does that business grow into the future? Like, how does your customer base grow, and what are those projections?
As of today, we are proud to work with 700 B2B customers all around the globe from all industries. This is, of course, in the renewable space, where we have our main focus, around 250 B2B customers from the renewable space, trading companies, utilities. But we have customers also in a lot of other industries, such as automotive, where we work with Tesla, Porsche, Volkswagen, etc., etc.
Thank you. Just to follow up, and so the market size for this is much more than 250 customers. So I'm wondering, what's the potential here, and how you're going to get there?
So in the weather market, so I'm a bit conservative with some sort of bottom-up approach, but I think it's a fair estimate to say as of today, it's maybe
Climate Robotics Network to everyone. 1 minute left of Q&A.
Okay, 3 billion. And it's meant to grow maybe up to 5 billion per year in the next 3 to 4 years. Other estimates are way higher.
Can you tell me which customer segment you found really great product market fit in, where you've been able to change their outcomes like the most, or that's been the most surprising to you?
So the energy market is certainly very competitive. The weather market has been around for maybe 4 or 5 decades, and we are disrupting here that market. I mean, when you are able to gain 200, 250 customers in that very competitive market where it's always about quality and speed, then you did something right.
Wow, it's very hard. I want to ask a million questions as well. So just thanks again, everyone. Let's give a big thank you to Martin and for Ara and Juan for their questions. And then please do ask Martin some more questions in the chat, if you will. And we're on to our next pitch colleague. Are they running up? It's Angsa Robotics, please.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, hi everyone. I'm Lucas, co-founder of Angsa Robotics, and at Angsa Robotics, we care about trash. We care about trash, especially when it's not on the paved surfaces where it's easy to remove, but on unpaved surfaces, which can be grass surfaces, could be gravel surfaces, could be cobblestone surfaces. For these areas, there's currently no machine that can facilitate cleaning. So at the moment, what happens is the cleaning is done completely manually, which obviously takes a lot of resources, takes a lot of costs for our customers. And what also happens is that if we do manual cleaning, only the visible hot spots will be cleaned and a lot of relevant trash will be left behind. Especially small trash like cigarette butts can be extremely harmful for the environment. We came up with a solution that fixes this problem, and it's a technological solution. Next slide. Maybe you can do the next slide and then we jump back afterwards. So this is our autonomous trash removal robot, and it consists of different technological components. So first of all, it can move completely autonomously on the open terrain. Using computer vision, we are able to detect obstacles. We are able to localize ourselves in the open area. Then we have a trash detection module with which we can detect every small trash item. And we have a removal system which is under the hood of the robot and which can remove trash in a targeted manner. We are already bringing value to our customers with this product. We shipped one last year to the city of Berlin, the Berliner Stadtreinigung. We're going to ship 5 units this year to different cities in Munich, and it's going to be 25 next year. We are also not the only ones who believe in this problem. Apart from us, our customers, we have a strong investor base. The company Husqvarna invested 2.5 million euro in a seed round last year into us. And now we can switch back to the other slide to round up where the vision could also go. Because obviously we are fighting a problem that is very specific. But there are many other problems that are very, very related. And then if you look at this domain that we're operating in, the landscaping, there's a huge market potential. So in the landscaping, there is a enormous job vacancy that is trying to be filled with people, but there just aren't enough people to do this anymore. Technology will be the solution to close this gap and to make these dirty, dull, dangerous jobs actually automatable. That's it about our customer, our company. Happy to take any questions.
Well, wonderful. Thanks, Lucas. Really great to hear about what you're trying to do in this area. Over to Ara for the first question. And again, we have 2 minutes for questions. And again, ask in the chat if you have further questions as well. Over to Ara.
Today's key to
Sorry, Zoom is like fighting me today. So after this, I'm gonna leave and come back. Sorry about my Zoom Siri, but I'd love to learn a little bit more about your traction. Who's been willing to pilot or pay for your services so far, and why?
Yeah. So we had a paid deployment with the city of Berlin. They are at the moment cleaning all the parks in Berlin. They are estimating a budget of 100 million just for cleaning the parks. we piloted with 1 unit last year. We are going to ship 1 unit this year as well, and we estimate a total demand of 75 units for the whole city.
Very cool. So I'll jump in. Following, I had a similar question to Angsa, but so how do you plan to engage with customers who are typically resistant to change, considering, for example, governments, right? So in order to introduce your market interest in your market entry strategy quite efficiently, yeah, I don't know if that's too many words, but how are you going to change people's perception of the need?
Yeah. Actually, the need is pretty clear because the problem is clear. Everybody sees the trash. The only problem is that currently there's no economic solution for this. So, like, it's not hard to convince our customers of the problem. Then it is a bit harder to convince them of a innovative solution like ours because they're not used to operating with robots, and we work very closely with our customer to make this happen. Then, if we are able to convince a customer like the city of Berlin, things get a bit easier because the cities are not competitive like with each other. The city of Berlin does not care so much if the city of Hamburg also buys a robot from our units. So many second-hand deals come from word of mouth of our customers.
Wonderful. I think we're up for questions in time for this round, but just thanks again to Lucas and Ara. I hope your device is better now. Let's hear it for the robot voices at a robotics conference. I can't say that you just really kind of did a meta thing for us. Over to the next one, which is first Airborne. My friend, you are on mute.
Thank you. Stop the clock. Okay, I'll go again.
Yes, my friend, go ahead. Take your
So,
space.
I say hello, everybody. Thanks very much. My name is Boaz. I'm the founder and CEO of First Airborne. I've been in wind power, building wind farms for over a decade now, and actually much longer than that. First Airborne is in the business of performance testing of wind turbines. Basically, when we buy a turbine, we're not really interested in what it's made of, but we're interested to understand the relationship between wind, your raw material, and power, all right? If you don't know what the raw wind is that's going to hit your turbine in a few seconds, what you're making makes no sense. Doesn't make any sense. You can't make any sense out of it. That's given rise to quite a few industries or a few solutions. Maybe the incumbent one is LiDARs, which you may be familiar with from other industries, which basically what you can see in this image here, a LiDAR is placed on the nacelle of the turbine, shoots laser beams into the sky, and that comes back with some kind of indication on the wind speed and wind direction and eventually the wind resource. Problem is, LiDARs are very expensive. They're terrible logistics. And the worst thing is they can deal with one turbine at a time. They're just stuck there. Now, First Airborne has developed the windborne sensor, which is this guy over here, right here, which is something looks like something you may have seen before, but I assure you is very different. And it has a secret sauce. It can fly. And that creates a world of optimization and tuning possibilities for wind turbines, because if you're looking at LiDARs, which are doing, let's say, in the best case, say 5 turbines a year in testing, this guy is running now a campaign in Texas, and we're gone beyond 200 turbines per single system tested in 1 year. And that's a huge leap in terms of value to customers. If you can go to the next slide, please. I should say, so this is the windborne sensor flying around in different customer sites, positioning itself tailored to the specific turbines. This is Austria, Texas, France. I think the one on the upper hand right is Germany. And really has taken to quite a few early adopters, but significant players. If we can jump to the next slide, please. I think we'll almost out of time. Go to the next slide. So yeah, the important thing to understand about the windborne sensor, it's now fully industry validated. It's actually considered a first-class wind measurement device in the industry. As I say, the fact that we are actually, and these are our customers and partners, which are household names in the energy business, so no need to elaborate on them for too long. I think the bottom line is when the current technologies cost 10 times as much and are able to test like 30x less than we are, then then really is hard to really consider them as at the moment as competition. Of course, there's a big scaling effort for us going forward. And this all translates into minimal costs per recoverable megawatt hour to the customer. If you look at the chart at the bottom, basically wind power globally is making, say, 60, 70 euro, maybe 50 in America per megawatt hour. We are recovering at less than 10 euro per megawatt hour. No brain deal.
Thanks so much, Boz. Back for that. We are on time. Please go ahead with your questions, Ara and Juan. And thanks again for talking and saying secret sauce. You're the second person who said secret sauce today. I think we should get like a bingo card for what we're saying. No disregard. Over to Juan or to Ara.
I came in third. I couldn't have known. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. More sauce. That's all right.
Thank you, Boaz. I'll kick things off. Congratulations on an incredible solution, but I'm wondering what's your current traction and what are your projected bottlenecks to continue growing, or what problems are you experiencing to continue growing? Seems like you have it all sorted out. So
far from it, as you can expect from any startup, as usual. So I'll say this: I think we have a really strong traction very early on, because this has been validated last year. And very certified and validated, and that's really given a huge boost. So I would say that the question for us in terms of scale is less a question of, let's say, per se commercial, but I'd say logistical or spreading out. And as an example, where we are currently servicing direct service, actually our own people are servicing and actually delivering data services. The next step for us is to bring the version into, let's say, we call it, sorry for the French, idiot proof. In other words, it will be working throughout this phone, and you will be just launching it as an operator on your own site and creating a huge amount of utility for yourself. And that's actually the next stage of the system, which is meant to bring significant scale, which is what we're lacking at the moment.
Okay. I think we're almost up for questions. Ara, I see you taking a deep breath. So because you had device fail, why don't you please go ahead?
Quick question.
Sure.
Can you explain or maybe quantify the size of this underperformance? Like how much money
Sure.
are the operators leaving on the table?
Can you see that? Can you see that ugly white chart bang in the middle of the screen?
Yes.
See the red line?
Mm-hmm.
This is like low-hanging fruit example. So that red line over there is showing 9 degrees that the turbine itself, which obviously can't measure wind because it's banging the interference range of the wind. It doesn't know where the wind is blowing from, and that's creating less lift under the blades, which is a common phenomenon called yaw misalignment. And that red line is where the turbine thinks the wind is, but the gray line in the middle on the 0 degrees is where the wind really is. You fix the red line, which is a simple software offset to the turbine. You fix its vane and overlay the red on the gray. You've won that turbine about 3% in AEP in annual energy production, which in a very geared industry, that will translate into about 25% more in distributions.
Wonderful. Listen, we are going to provide the slides after. We have all the links for all the people. It's very clear that it's hard to talk about all of this very important science and tech that's going on, but we're going to have to go on to our next colleague to give it. And just let's give a round of applause for Boz. And thanks, Ara, again, Juan. And next up.
Okay, thanks, Heather. Hello, my name is Tim. I'm with Swap Robotics, and our mission is to make work equipment 100% electric. So this year in America, 58% of new electricity added to the grid will be from solar power, and with 80% of that coming from 500+ acre utility scale solar sites. In fact, utility scale solar is on track to become the world's #1 energy source by the 2040s. And Swap Robotics is solving the 2 biggest labor buckets to make it happen quicker. In the solar construction phase, we focus on the single biggest labor expense, which is solar panel laying. And in the operations and maintenance phase for the next 30 years, we also solve the single biggest expense, which is actually cutting the grass and vegetation on sites that go on for miles. Each of these activities costs over $10 million throughout the lifetime of a typical utility scale solar site. Slide, please. SWAP has dozens of robots already deployed and is currently on 7 solar sites with more coming soon. In fact, yesterday we just got requested for a quote for another 1,200 plus acre site. Next slide, please. So in 2023, we did $680,000 of recognized revenue. Next slide, please. And we're on track to do over 3 million in 2024, mostly on 3-year contracts. So SWAP Robotics it's definitely gaining some industry attention. And in fact, we have investment from USA's largest utility scale solar builder and USA's largest solar vegetation cutting company. So we're addressing the 2 biggest labor buckets to make the clean energy transition happen quicker, representing a $50 billion a year market by 2030. Today, SWAP has more heavy-duty robots deployed and actually working on utility-scale solar sites than any other player in the industry. SWAP Robotics is clearly in pole position to be the dominant #1 player in solar robotics. So we're raising $2 million now. And if you want, you can reach out to me, Tim, T-I-M, @swaprobotics.com. So join us in accelerating the clean energy transition. We're SWAP Robotics. Thank you.
Super tight pitch there, Tim. Over to Juan and Ara for your questions.
Sure. Congratulations, Tim. I've actually heard of SWAP Robotics, so very, very cool product. I wonder, you mentioned quite a bit of your presence in the market, and I just was wondering if you have identified well who your competitors are and what your strategies to distinguish yourself from them will be.
Yeah, for sure. So in terms of, I'd put this almost into 2 different categories, right? For the use case of solar vegetation cutting and the use case of robotic solar panel laying. Starting with the vegetation cutting, there's one company that's been around probably for 6 years. They have some robots deployed, but frankly, they just don't work. They get stuck in the ground a lot. They don't have the power that's needed. In fact, they had to ask for a cut be done before the robots arrived to a site that we're going to both be working on and competing. So we're not too concerned about them. There's a few other players that are also kind of 2 to 4 person startups, but they all have more or less the same approach, which we just don't think is realistic. So we're less concerned in that front. In the robotic solar panel laying, there's a few groups that are working on that. There's, of course, Terabase, backed by Bill Gates. We think that our approach is more pragmatic, and in just groups that have been doing construction on the gigawatt scale agree with that. However, they've obviously well-funded and established management team. There's a couple other players in that industry as well, but we have definitely way more robots deployed than anyone else in this space who's a valid competitor as we see it at this point. Yeah.
Thanks, Tim. The questions are so detailed and it's hard to talk about whatever you're working on. So Ara, I'm going to ask you to take the next question, if that's all right, from the next colleague. And thanks again, Tim, and everyone, please give him a virtual round of applause. And we're up to Gianluca. Nope, we cannot hear you, Gianluca. I think you're on mute. Multiple devices, my friend. Try again. We'll pause the clock and give you a chance so we can hear your voice. I mean, it's hard to pitch, unless you want to pitch with your hands. I mean, you could do that, but let's see. Could we? Sounds like we're going to need to go to the next colleague until you work on your audio. Is that all right with you? Okay, so who's up next after Gianluca? I'm very sorry. We're gonna skip Gianluca until he can work on his sound. Thanks very much. Okay, it's Salman from Floating Robotics. Salman, are you here? Could you help us out a little bit?
Yes, do you hear me?
Just get Solomon on video so I can check that he's here. Hi, Solomon.
Hello.
Thank you so much
Do
for
you
your
hear me?
flexibility.
Yes.
All right. We'll start the clock and we'll get to Solomon's slides. There we go. On
Okay.
with the show.
Good. Good afternoon. My name is Salman. I'm from Floating Robotics, a spin-off of ETH University. So the problem you're solving is fluctuation in labor, especially in greenhouses. Farmers enjoy the control of the weather, enjoy like a extension of the season and a lot of production. But for the people working there, it's just horrible. It's like so much of humidity, and the wages are very small. And in agriculture in Switzerland, usually it's 52, 55 hours a week. It's a lot of physical work, which is, I mean, when they come, they see another option, they just leave. They don't hesitate. So we want to offer a solution to the farmers. Go to next slide, please. And this solution is reliable. This is a robot that is predictable. It has like a certain performance, but it can keep working. And we create a support behind this. And this robot is gonna solve a lot of problems for the farmers. I'm showing it on the right. This is a robot that goes up and down. This is a typical vertical structure where you grow like tomatoes around. And the robot is built to understand like fine or thin objects in the environment. It could be ropes or wires, shoots of the plants, or even the trunk or stems. And we are building different applications on top of this, let's say, machine vision skill. So please go to the next. So here I've split it like a video into some GIFs. I'm going to show like the harvesting part, which is the one on top. So harvesting is part of the production cycle in a greenhouse, but it's not that big. It's maybe 20-25%. Then we have the leafing in tomato, especially. This keeps growing, so every week you have to cut leaves and harvest. It's like this loop continues. But there is even much more. There are like a lot of operations on the plants, like clipping them or cutting the flowers, or a lot of things that this robot is capable of. And at the moment, we're focusing on harvesting just to like establish a product. And in the future, we plan to even continue more. So we are starting 2 pilots this summer. This is our like 3rd year actually going into the field. And we are kind of progressing to make the robot even more performant with more arms and with like faster speed. So that is our story. I'm happy to take questions.
Wonderful. Over to Ara. That does make me hungry, though.
Can you explain why you're going after a specific application, and then also what crop is first for your robot and why?
Yes, the principle is cutting the stem, not the crop. So this stem cutting applies to many crops, but tomato is the lowest hanging fruit because you remove the leaves. It's part of the practice. Then for the machine vision, it's just much easier. But after this tomato and all the varieties, we wanna move to strawberries and cucumbers.
Hi, so thank you so much. Incredible. I was wondering, could you talk to us a little bit about your client acquisition strategy? How are you going to get this into the hands of farmers?
It really depends on the geography. In Switzerland, we have 10 customers. We already know 7 of them. We are piloting with 2. But outside, farmers actually make unions. Like when we go to Netherlands, we talk to 1 person, but that person represents 400 hectares. So they have a network of farmers all over the country, and they quickly exchange knowledge. So at least for the let's say the following 5 years, we are working with these unions. They are mostly in Canada and Netherlands. They're really already massive. So we have like thousands of robots we can ship to them. But after that, we're gonna work with the horticulture suppliers and like greenhouse constructors.
Thousands of robots. A friend of mine told me that in insurance, they're preparing for billions of AI-enabled robots. I immediately told my humanitarian colleagues that we need to get on the ship. Thank you so much, Salman, for all of your energy and for joining us and for going next. We are going to invite Michael to the stage next from SubSeaSail. And for the question about Gianluca, we are waiting for him to come back, and hopefully he'll go at the end at the
Oh, you're on mute. Sorry, Heather.
Did I just mute myself? All right, go ahead, Michael.
Good morning from San Diego. SubSeaSail makes autonomous underwater and surface vessels. We believe the opportunity, if you look at the bottom, is really to put out hundreds of thousands of affordable, 100% clean, quiet, robust vehicles. We need that to understand what's going on in the ocean and to work with the ocean in new ways. So we're creating both an observation vessel and a cargo and energy delivery storage vehicle. Next slide, please. So what makes us different? We don't have a traditional monohull. You can see in the upper left here, the strikes through them, the kinds of things that they create: heat, radar, sound, visual, wake. Those are all things that can be seen from space. They can be listened to by the whales. We're making vehicles that are ultra quiet, long duration, 100% clean. So the lower left is our observation vessel. The lower right is our multi-hull cargo and energy vehicle. We are disruptively affordable, so low CapEx and low OpEx, which means you can talk about fleets and swarms. We can launch them from the beach. They're ultra low signature. The fact that they're going to be able to submerge means that we can hide from bad actors, bad weather, also to listen and monitor above and below water. We're looking at trying to decrease the total cost of ownership. And then our Hermes vehicle can do both traditional and non-traditional loads, decentralized offshore secure storage, and the ability to deliver the beach, which is a big deal in climate change world. Next, please. So as I said, we have two lines of vehicles. You can see some pictures here. So why are these useful from a climate point of view? Well, they're disruptively affordable. It means they can be sold and used in any country around the world. They're multi-mission vehicles, depending on what the load is. We're creating the Ford 150, if you will, of an observation vessel. Our nearest competitor is 10 times more expensive and 10 times as heavy. We want to be ubiquitous. There's estimated to be less than 20,000 autonomous vehicles in the world, and there need to be on the ocean, and there need to be hundreds of thousands. The ability to submerge is a game changer. And so we're interested in observation in many locations. Both of our vehicles can do that. We've gotten funding from the National Science Foundation for the Department of Energy. Our Hermes vehicle is a world first. We have a self-righting capability, which means people can use it in ways that have not been possible before, including delivering to the beach for humanitarian aid or expeditionary force, and providing offshore secure underwater should be storage as opposed to delivery. So two different kinds of vehicles to address two needs in the ocean. Happy to take questions.
Wonderful. Thanks, Michael. Over to Ara for first, and then Juan.
Can you tell us a little bit about your beachhead customer and why you're going after that market?
Yeah, so ours are dual usage technologies. And as you can imagine, the Defense Department in the United States and other countries is very interested. And from our point of view, the fact that they can buy multiples is quite interesting. We have a list of about 100 in our pipeline of people that range from universities to hydrographic institutions, from the hydrographer of South Africa to the largest environmental cleanup company in Brazil. But we've not wanted to sell until we were ready. And that means the ability to do some of the things we want to do. When you put them out in the ocean, you can't go pick them up very easily. These are long duration vehicles that will go long periods of time, and you got to make sure that they're really rugged. So we've got right now one Japanese customer that wants to put in at least 20, and we've got a pending contract with the U.S. Navy that will be 60 of our Horus vehicle.
Thanks.
That's incredible, Michael. Congratulations. I was wondering, not on the clients. Oh, sorry. Do we have time for another?
Super quick, Juan.
Who are your partners and how are they helping? Not your clients, your partners.
We have channel partners, and we of course have companies that we've worked with, for example, on acoustics. Above the water, we see things and we don't hear very far. Underwater, you hear very far and you don't see very far. So we've got a couple of world-class acoustic companies working with us. We're not acoustic people. So it depends on kind of what the technology is, but acoustics is one of the big ones, and we've got a couple of world-class partners in that.
Wonderful. All right. Well, thanks for answering your questions, Michael, and for joining us. And please do ask any other questions that you have for our colleagues in the chat. Or next up is Neil. And deep breath, roll shoulders. That's a lot of pitches. I don't know how you guys can come up with questions over that. Anyway, next.
So, hello everybody. Let me just start my timer. Yeah. Hello everybody. My name is Neil. I'm super happy to present to you the company that I have founded, which is MIROS Technology, where we are dedicated to optimize and redefining living spaces. So we want to use the technology, leverage technology to dynamically transform any room into several ones in an exciting environment. Next, please. So the source of our venture, why we are doing that, is specifically the booming population. So you may all know that the world population is increasing dramatically, and with the climate crisis that is arising, the population within cities and urban hub will double by 2050. And this is actually a huge problem because, of course, it will increase the cost of housing, reduce the quality of life, and it will have a completely detrimental impact on sustainability, considering that we have only two options right now. It's either we optimize current infrastructure or we expand, which is the only way we have to do now. So basically, we will encroach on the rural lands and otherwise useful territories. So what we are proposing at MIROS Technology is to actually fill a room with technology, with the robotic furnitures, and actually transform one room into three. Next slide, please. So what you can see here is our first line of product. It's called EvoWork, and the idea is really to turn an office space into three several rooms. So you could have seen the table coming from the ceiling and the desk dropping from the desk expanding from the walls, and all of that at the press of a button. So this is just the beginning. We are right now on the verge of deploying our first system here in Switzerland, and we would be happy to discuss any other opportunity anywhere if this could be interesting to you. So I was a bit quicker, but maybe we can have more time for questions if that's okay.
Absolutely. There's always time for questions. Why don't you start off, Juan?
Awesome. Yeah.
Sure. First of all, congratulations. I bumped into the solution in an AI for Good in Switzerland and had the option to see this firsthand. So it's very impressive, and it's wonderful to see you again. I was wondering what sort of partnerships would be ideal in your scaling journey, and I want to kind of give you some options here. But for example, are you looking to partner with real estate developers and therefore include this from the bottom up, or IKEA, or maybe hotel scenarios? Tell me a little bit about how you're doing that.
Yep. So there are several segments. So we are investigating, of course, the hospitality sector because we know that our solution could be useful for hotels, but we imagine also the possibility for interior designers or real estate developers. It basically real estate developers and interior designers are pretty much the same role, but in different countries and different names. But so these people would be ideal for us because they would be distributors. And they could benefit from our solution, and our solution is actually not so it's compatible with any existing framework, so any table or so. So we can actually design everything with a complementary aspect with these distributors. I don't know if I was clear, but the idea is really to discuss with these kind of people so we can plug our solution into existing frameworks, with always in the philosophy of optimizing existing infrastructure.
All right. Very sorry. We're going to have to go on to the next person. So Ara, we'll get you to ask the next question, but just a round of applause for Neil and for sharing it. And Vikas, you're up on deck. And thank you, everyone. It's a bit intense to go over there. I think everybody deserves 15 minutes of questions. So I won't take any more of Vikas's time.
I'm doing it. Felipe, one of the other co-founders. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, you're on. Yep.
Awesome. First slide, please. Hi, everybody. My name is Felipe. Thank you for having me here today. I'm a co-founder of Reframe Systems and ex-Angsa Robotics, where I spent 6 years as the technical lead for their robotic bin picking solution. Reframe Systems is on a mission to unlock climate-friendly housing as a basic human right with robots. 27% of all carbon emissions come from our homes. The fact is that in order to mitigate climate change per the Paris Agreement, the US needs to build a net zero home every 15 seconds and retrofit an existing home to net zero every 2 seconds. On the bright side, solar and battery costs have dropped by over 6 times in the last decade. In comparison, the cost of construction has doubled in that same time frame. Construction is highly fragmented, requiring more than 22 subcontractors for a given project. And over 50% of the cost of a home is direct labor, and due to the growing shortage of skilled labor, construction costs have increased rapidly. For comparison, most manufacturing processes like automotive have less than 10% in direct labor. We need to address labor productivity in construction in order to solve for climate change. Next slide, please. Our approach is to create a distributed network of low-cost microfactories located less than 50 miles from target markets. We have designed a net zero modular building platform that enables us mass customization and allows us to build a wide range of projects from ADUs to small multifamily buildings. We are driven significant CapEx savings with our software-first approach, where we have robust digital models, software-driven robotic work cells, and software augmentation for trades to perform a wide range of tasks, including plumbing, wiring, and interior finish. We have fully commissioned our first microfactory here in Andover, Mass. It costs $1 million and can produce 100,000 square feet of net zero homes a year with a small 15-person crew. Next slide, please. We are applying our technology to focus on the 30 billion missing middle market, where we partner with developers to build 1 to 20 unit projects. Our approach has been resonating with our customers, and we are on target to hit $1 million in revenue this year and have a rapidly growing $47 million plus project pipeline. Thank you for your time, and now I'm open for questions.
Go ahead, Ara.
Great. Thanks for the pitch. Can you explain the advantages of your approach versus other approaches to net zero construction? So like, 3D printing, prefab, modular homes, new materials and so on.
Prefab and modular are actually very similar. I mean, they're the same thing. The advantages of a building inside of a factory means that you can really optimize processes, reduce idle time, increase ergonomics. So there's a lot of benefits from that front. And if you see other countries that have struggled with labor, Sweden, Finland, Japan, in those markets, over 40% of houses are built this way. Hope that answers your question.
Great. And if I have some time for a question, I was just wondering, what are the main obstacles that your customers express in adopting your product and how you're addressing that?
So modular in the US today, one of the big issues is that the modules are normally built multiple states over. So for example, here for Mass, you'd be getting modules either come from Canada or from Idaho, from Pennsylvania. So the transportation costs are large, but it also means that you have two sets of trades to do the same work, right? You're doing some work in a factory for plumbing, and then you have another plumber on site. And there's a lot of disagreement and friction from our customers on that. Because we're designing these factories to be local to the markets that they're going to be at, the same kind of crews can kind of circulate in and out between the factory and the site, which means that we can really close that loop and provide a much more seamless experience for them.
Wonderful. Okay. Don't forget to ask questions in the chat for our colleagues and just say thank you to Felipe for
Thanks, everybody.
Yeah, for Reframe. All right. Next up, we do have Stefan.
Hello. Just gonna wait for the slides. I don't see them. Yeah, I'm Stefan from Namu, where we monitor biodiversity anywhere. You've probably heard that over 50% of global GDP depends on nature and biodiversity, but maybe you didn't know that also 50% of our global food supply is based only on maize, wheat, and rice. And we all heard of the growing biodiversity crisis, and not only our food supply, but also other ecosystem services are experiencing greater risk, with these $10 to $31 trillion of ecosystem services lost every year. That's, for example, invasive species that are increasing while important pollinators are dying out. And unfortunately, we're very inefficient to monitor changes in our environment, in our ecosystems, and we're slow, it's expensive, and it's very labor intensive. So without timely, large scale, and actionable data, these numbers actually won't decrease. Next slide, please. We at Namu Robotics or Namu monitor biodiversity anywhere. We collect DNA traces with drones, actually from our environment. That can be lakes, forests, and agricultural fields. And we combine that with a scalable technology, a second scalable technology, environmental DNA. And this is used to identify the species that these genetic traces belong to. Environmental DNA is extremely sensitive, and that means it can allow for early pest detection, and it allows us to do single as well as multi-species assessment, and it does not depend on how we sample that. We can do both of those. By combining this with drones, we can actually scale the whole thing. We can automate it and also reach places that previously we couldn't access or that are high risk for people. Next slide. With this, we think the beachhead is invasive pests. There's already some traction there, but in the long run, we're looking at the whole space of biodiversity finance, which we just saw some frameworks looking at 200 billion being invested in that space until the end of the decade. We have some milestones. I think the biggest one that I'm looking forward to is in July, we're participating in the Express Rainforest Finals, a 10 million prize purse there to grab for us more or less before we start some projects here. And yeah, really looking forward to that. And we are currently looking also for support from business coaches in the Switzerland area, especially in the biodiversity finance space. Yeah, open to your questions. I already saw something.
Yep, we're taking questions from our co-moderators. Please go ahead, Ara.
Yes.
For this first market, invasive pests, what is the area you're surveying? Is it a forest, farmland, and where is it geographically?
Yeah, so for the first project that we have there, it's the Japanese beetle, which is slowly spreading from actually northern Italy into Switzerland. So it's in Ticino, where we are testing this in vineyards. Of course, that's also a good case for drones because we can actually like do that on inclined hills and steep hills and so on. But yeah, that's the first pilot project we're looking at for this.
Thank you, Stefan. So I'd like a little bit of clarification if you could help me understand what specifically is your product. Is it the drone, the software, the analysis, the data? Walk me through that, please.
Yeah, so this at the moment we anticipate this as a service, offering basically the pipeline from the whole pipeline from taking the samples up to you get the results. Of course, what we need some strategic partnerships with eDNA analysis companies. Since we are the roboticists, we do the whole basically taking the samples. We of course gained a lot of experience in the field of environmental DNA over the last 2-3 years. But of course we are not doing this. So in maybe like half a year or a year, we'll be able to already do some things in the field in terms of eDNA. So there's a rapid development also on the side of eDNA. But this is yeah, probably still a big partnership is needed.
I think everybody's looking for partnerships with Stefan. Thank you so much for sharing about your work, and for our co-moderators, Ara and Juan, for asking all these hard questions. The last person's up, and Gianluca, I believe that you have swapped devices and built a computer in 2 minutes to be able to come and join us. So hopefully your sound is working, and over to you.
Yes, can you hear me now? Okay, perfect. Just a quick computer swap fixed the problem, so
right. We're just
hopefully
fixing the slides as well for you too, so we can get back to
yes, absolutely.
Thank you so much for your patience.
No, thank you for your patience. I'm so sorry that this happened.
We are all human beings here on this journey. Over to you.
Perfect. So welcome everyone. I'm Gianluca Roscioli, founder and CEO of Arculus Solutions, and I want to introduce you to our mission, which is to retrofit natural gas transmission pipelines to safely transport hydrogen. Next. So if you were at Sarah Week this year, you probably noticed this recurring topic, which is that we can finally produce hydrogen, even for cheap, but we do not have the infrastructure to transport it. Next. So in the United States, we have a very well-established natural gas transmission grid with over 320,000 miles of transmission pipelines, but unfortunately, these are susceptible to hydrogen embrittlement. And full replacement would cost over $1 trillion. Next. So at Arculus, we want to commercialize a hydrogen barrier coating that we developed at MIT. Our coating is safe because it produces a hydrogen barrier that prevents the hydrogen from reaching the steel. It is cost effective because it costs less than 1/10 the amount of replacing the pipelines. And it is also effortless for pipe owner or utility companies because we simply use a pigging robot to apply the coating. So you don't need to dig out this infrastructure. In this animated GIF, you can see a rendering of how the pigging robot that we are developing will work, traveling inside the pipe to apply the coating. And at the bottom, instead, you can actually see our prototype in the laboratories at AXE in Newark, New Jersey. And you can see it going through a 12-inch pipe and also going through a bend. Next slide. I want to stress our biggest strength, which is our team. We have two amazing mechatronics engineers, Beeman and Bowen, that are here in the public. And then there is myself. I have a PhD from MIT, and I'm currently an innovator fellow for the Breakthrough Energy Foundation. Next. Last thing that I want to mention is our current raise. We are fundraising a 5 million seed round. Next. And this will be used in order to strengthen our team, hiring more mechatronics engineers, building a minimum viable product for 12-inch pipelines, and last but not least, reaching a field test in summer 2025, so that we can get 1 mile coated and get access to first revenues. With this, I want to thank you for your attention and your time, and I welcome any questions. And I'm also going to drop the link in the chat if you guys are interested, because we are always looking for talented people. So this way you can reach out if you want.
Yes, hire our people, hire our network. I love it. Over to the questions.
I'll just jump in real quick. It's a biggie. So I'm trying to understand that you've identified a particular opportunity and it's incredible. What's the problem you're addressing? Where's the market opportunity? And geographically, where are you going to find your pilots?
Pilots, Texas or California. Market opportunity is worldwide. So we have over 944,000 miles of transmission pipelines everywhere in the world. Largest opportunity is the United States, 320,000, so 1/3 of these. Texas and California are our batched market because California is already pushing to mix 20% in their pipelines, and Texas is the largest natural gas producers, and they are pushing actually to inject hydrogen because they want to push for blue hydrogen injection.
Thank you.
Thanks, Juan.
Great. Quick question for me, and full disclosure, I know Gianluca, SOSV invested in Arculus, so I love the product and the team, but it is quite a complex technical challenge, right? Because we have a new material and a novel robot that's going into these pipes. So what have you de-risked technically so far, and what is up next?
Yes, if you don't mind going back to the slide, to the previous slide with the robot. So the process that we use is a solid state deposition process. We do not see the robot, but it's fine. So practically speaking, the biggest challenge that we had is that we needed to produce a compartment chamber that travels inside the pipe while maintaining a controlled atmosphere. That was the part that we managed to de-risk at AXE. Right now, the next steps is but transform equipment that already exists commercially into a pipe shape factor. So complex, but quite doable.
Wonderful. Well, just thank you, Gianluca, for being here and for closing off our first pitch session of the Climate Robotics Summit. I just want to take 1 second to thank all of the people who pitched today and all of the teams that they work with. It's very hard to give a message in 3 minutes and very hard to talk about all the amazing work you're doing. And I hope that you will go and explore what work they're doing and look at their links and ask more questions in the chat for them. I'd also like to thank our tech team, Tamoy, for really just like knocking it out of the park for all the juggling for that. I think it's very hard to do all of that. And then lastly, just for Ara and for Juan, thank you so much for bringing those questions and really just being enthusiastic about each of our people here pitching. So with that, one last round of virtual applause for our speakers.